So good morning, everybody. Welcome to JOC Huddle number 29. Make sure to add your campus name after participants at the bottom of your screen. That way it just lets us know what campus you're coming from. Probably know most of you at this point, but it still helps me and Carly get to know you better. So let's get started with JOC Huddle number 29, returning to the fundamentals of building a JOC project. Today, of course, is September 27th, 2024, and thank you for joining us. So taking a quick look at our agenda, we'll go over some announcements. We'll hand it over to Gordian to talk about returning to the fundamentals of building a JOC project. We'll have an open discussion, and then we'll talk about upcoming training here at the CO. So Carly, why don't you get us started with the new layout for the CSU regional JOC agreements?
Definitely, thank you. We have a new layout on our intranet website. It'll be the same link in case anybody had that saved in their browser. The link did not change, but the way we lay out the regional contracts looks a little bit different. Those headers there at the top are filters, so you can filter by your region or by the general specialty contracts that you're looking for. So hopefully that'll make the contracts a little bit easier to find.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions about this, you can just contact Carly. I'm just kidding. You can contact the both of us. We'll help you find the agreements you're looking for. But it's a lot easier to find your contracts. And if you're in the north and the south, it definitely separates them out. It makes it a lot easier. Guys, don't forget to do this campuses. Please don't forget to do your JOC contractor evaluations. It is, as you'll see, it's the last tab in Gordian Cloud. When you're wrapping up your project, just click on this contractor evaluation. It helps the chancellor's office out, and it also helps out other campuses. So we know what contractors are better on certain projects and certain scopes. But please complete that when you're done with your project. Thank you. And don't forget, we are doing a JOC program analysis. We've completed them for San Luis Obispo, San Marcos, and Los Angeles. So we'll be meeting up with all those campuses very soon to talk about our findings. So here's some of the items that we're kind of looking at right now. But please stay tuned. Your campus will probably have a JOC program analysis very soon. And we're actually giving out a JOSCAR award. See what I did there? It's not an Oscar, but it's for JOC. Get it, Carly? Is that pretty good, right? So we're
Pretty
actually
good.
handing out awards for the best JOC project and the highest scoring JOC projects per this criteria that I was just showing you. So off to you, Cynthia. Let's get us started on the road to the right road to doing a JOC project.
Awesome. So you guys have all probably sat in a Gordian training with that roadmap with the 6 steps that we've all known and loved. But this goes a little bit, it's just a smidge more in depth without going into the full flow chart of what comprises a JOC project. But we really wanted to go into this and dissect out each of the parts with you guys so that you guys have a thorough understanding of what does comprise a JOC project. So the first step in all of this is identifying whether or not this is considered a good JOC project. And if you've done a training with Jeremy, of course you've heard it doesn't meet the 3 R's. That means repair, renovation, and repetitive work. And this is based off of SUAM. So that is the basics of it. But think of it as anything but new construction. As a reminder, your minor cap limits are now 1.103 million on each of the individual jobs, which gives you some wiggle room to be able to do a lot of good work through JOC. But again, no new construction can happen through JOC. After you've identified your JOC project, whether it's good or not, always feel free, first of all, to reach out to us if you have any questions on that. We are more than happy to tell you yes or no whether we think that this would be good for JOC. We've seen every project come our way under the sun at this point, I think. So this is so use us as a resource. We have no problem telling you no. This is probably something that's better for another tool in your tool belt. But once you've identified whether this is a good JOC project or not, the second step is identifying who your JOC contractor is going to be. Now, this deliberation, this excerpt here is from the general conditions, but it can be any of these reasons. So whether you choose that it's because it's rotational, whether it's an evaluation of their past performance, or you're trying to balance out their workload amongst your contractors. Maybe you're managing out the volume of their overall contracts, and that's how you decide which one you want to go with. Sometimes it's pricing. You know, if a contractor has a higher factor, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. The book is the book, no matter which contractor you choose, but their factors do make an impact in their pricing. So the one thing that we want to avoid is having two contractors walk the same job. So I want to be very clear and transparent about that part. If you're walking a project with the contractor, it's because you intend to award the work to that contractor. However, if the pricing comes back way too high and you guys cannot meet in the middle anywhere, then you're more than welcome to move on to the next contractor. But I would recommend first look at their adjustment factors, because that will tell you a lot of what you will expect to see within their proposal. And honestly, a lot of the times it's the contractors with the lower factors that you'll see the higher proposals on, ironically. Another criteria could be their responsiveness. You know, we have some really fantastic contractors who are on it. You call them, they're there the next day. But there are others who will probably take maybe 2 to 3 business weeks to get a hold of them. So it just depends. And the general conditions do state that any other appropriate criteria that the campus deems can be the reason for your selection of your contractor. Cool. Any questions on that part? Because we do get a lot of common questions on how are we supposed to choose our JOC contractors. Okay then. Step 3, after you've already identified who your JOC contractor is, you're going to be conducting a joint scope meeting. Please make sure that you do not skip this step. It's a really, really important step. You're walking the job with your contractor. Even if it's a small project, still take out the time to meet with them on the site, because there's a lot of little details that can come up, or unforeseen conditions that can come up and be identified just by having a joint scope meetings. So make sure that you have your contractor invite their subs as well, and you can invite any relevant parties. I'm talking architects, engineers, anybody who's going to be touching the job in some aspect or another. Always come with a preliminary scope if you are able to. Obviously, there's going to be unknowns with every project, right? And that's the purpose of these joint scope meetings, is to figure out those unknowns. But come with a general idea of what work you would like conducted on the job, so that you can then guide the conversation better with your contractor.
And Cynthia, this is really important. Just to kind of to key on what you said, we have expectations when we go into these joint scope meetings, but what we have in our mind might not actually be possible as like project managers and construction managers. The boots on the ground, they might have a more efficient way to complete the project. You know, when I do my preliminary detailed scope of work, there are certain items there that like I have in mind, but I ask the contractor, like, is this possible? Can we actually, you know, can we do this? Is this possible to do in 7 days, or is it going to take 14 days? So it's important to really go back and forth and figure out what works best.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a couple of key components that you should be discussing at these, and this isn't obviously a full listing of it, but just a couple of key things to make sure that you talk about. Number 1 is your deliverable expectations.
Right.
That not only means the construction schedule, but also your proposal. Make sure you're identifying when you're expecting to get your proposal back. Not only that, but even their notes. A lot of campuses collaborate with their contractors, and the expectation is that the contractor provide their notes so that the campus can finalize their scope of work. So set the expectation as to what the deliverable timeline is at those joint scope meetings. Secondly is the presence of any hazardous materials, and not listed on here, but also permitting requirements that might be needed on the job. Also, of course, the actual scope of work, right? Making sure that you have all of the right components to a job. I'm talking quantities, I'm talking materials, any cut sheet references that you might need to identify, as well as the construction hours, right? Is it daytime hours? Is it nighttime hours? Is there students going to be present? Because that also impacts the job site, right? If there's students present, or if they're working in a higher security area, do they need to have certain background checks? Is there certain security requirements that are necessary to either be working around students or working in a higher security area? And of course, identifying all of the long lead time on materials. That is crucial, because that will absolutely then impact the deliverable expectations, right? And again, this is just a component of it, but just to give you a high level overview of the things to think about as you're walking into your joint scope meetings. All right. After you've had your joint scope meeting, we're going to write out the detailed scope of work. And that's exactly what it is. It's a detailed scope of work. I always think about your brief scope of work or your preliminary scope of work, like you're explaining the job to procurement. You're giving them a high level overview as to what the job is so that they can go in and review their packages. However, the detailed scope of work is really like you're talking to your contractor. And honestly, think about it like you're talking to a foreman. It is meant to be a collaborative document between you and your contractor. So always invite their input, and not only their input, but especially their subs input. Because a lot of the times the subs are who are the experts in this field, in this industry. So always invite their feedback. But the big thing that I will say that I see very commonly when reviewing jobs is making sure that both parties have signed off on the detailed scope of work. I cannot emphasize the impact of that before you even issue out your RFP. Make sure that both you have signed off on it as well as your contractor has signed off on it, because that's what's really going to hit. Like it's setting a clear cutoff. This is the scope. Nothing beyond this goes through. And not only that, but it's making sure that both you and your contractor have the thorough understanding that this is what's going to be performed and this is what's expected to be in the proposal. So why is this impactful? It's impactful because if you don't have that, a lot of the times the contractor will say, well, I forgot to include this in the proposal. This is where you can really hold their feet to the fire. And obviously it's at your discretion whether you want to allow them to add things after the matter via supplemental or not. But if it was written in the scope of work and they signed off on the scope of work, they will be required to perform that work even if it wasn't included in the proposal. Okay? So that's a big thing. But make sure that you're defining out the project's scale, location, description, detail out all of the items, like even the paint color, the types of material, the strength of the concrete, and of course include time frame expectations and note any exclusions. That's also a big one. Make sure you annotate the things that you do not want them to touch, okay? Because that could lead to another rabbit hole. Anything you want to add, Jeremy?
Sure, Cynthia, you gave me language, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, that everybody should be adding as their final bullet point to their detailed scope of work. And that's the verification of time and materials. And if there's a deviation in that, there might be a deduction or even an add later. If the scope changes, if maybe they said there was going to be 3 guys there for 5 days and it turns out there was only 2 guys there for 5 days. They'll need to explain why that happened. And it should be in the detailed scope of work that the university is going to expect some credit. You know, like if it wasn't installed per what we asked here, we're going to expect a credit. Or again, it could go back their way, that if, maybe you had to get some more materials, or, it wasn't what we expected. There was some extra time. Maybe there was some extra weekend work, that would, you can give them more money if need be. But it's important to have that line in there. Cynthia, if you have it in a minute, can you throw it in the chat, or maybe even your account managers can share it with their campuses about how important it is to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not weasel words so much, but it protects the campus and it protects the contractor as well.
The one thing I will notate to that, the caveat being that you have to make sure that you have an agreed upon scope of work signed off in order to proceed with this step. Because otherwise you could really get into the weeds of them saying, well, we never signed off on this scope of work. And actually we thought that there was going to be more work than what it was. And we didn't sign off on the scope. So we need to go back and dissect everything out. So make sure that you have those signatures if you want to proceed with this. And I just dropped it in the chat for you guys.
And so campuses, if you want to copy that and just kind of save it as an example, if you want to put that in your detailed scope of work, it would be very helpful. So, step 5.
Woohoo! We're almost there, guys. Okay. After you've identified your detailed scope of work and you've agreed upon it and signed off on it, you can issue out your request for proposal. That one's a quick one sheet you can pull from Gordian Cloud. And just so you know, all of these steps have correlated forms that you can pull from Gordian Cloud. And they all have exact verbiage correlated directly from your CPDC forms that you can find online through the Chancellor's office. But the request for proposal step is just really the formalized step requesting the proposal from the contractor. It is important that you guys do issue this out and not just via email, because again, it's about being able to be accountable with your contractor. If you shoot them a text message, an email, or pick up the phone and call them and request the proposal, you cannot then hold them accountable for the due date on that proposal. So if you say, I need it within 10 days, but you did it via phone call or email, you can't hold them accountable for it unless it's within a formalized detail request for proposal form. Okay. Technically, the contractor does have up to 14 days to submit their proposal over to you. However, it is at the campus's discretion to submit whenever they need that proposal submitted. So if you say, no, not 14, I actually need it in 5 because this is a quick job and actually it's an emergency, we need to get this done, it's a trip hazard, it's in a high visible area, whatever the case may be, then the contractor is bound to that due date. And always make sure you include a signed off detailed scope of work. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
So it does go the other way too. So if you're working on a project where you know it's going to take the contractor more than 14 days, just be crystal clear on that, right? Like if it's if the scope's a little more complicated, if the materials are tougher to procure, you can actually give the contractor more time if you so desire. But if you haven't heard from them in 14 days, you can move on to the next one.
Yep.
Step 6.
Cool. So after you've issued out your request for proposal, obviously the contractor is going to submit a proposal over to you, ideally, right? When the contractor submits the proposal, make sure that you guys are, when you're doing your review, you take into consideration that the system also allows you to build an estimate beforehand. Right. This is a really cool step. It is a little bit of legwork on the front end. However, this will pay you back in tenfold. Because when you build out an estimate in our system, number one, it's only internal. So only your side of the campus can see it. Your contractor cannot see your estimate. Number two, it's built directly from the same CTC that the contractors are using to build out the proposal.
And their bid factor. Yeah.
And their bid factors, correct. Yeah. So what does that mean? What that means is that when the proposal comes in, you can do a direct analysis that the system will run for you. You don't have to do it yourself. That will cross compare your estimate to their proposal. So that's your entire proposal review right there. If you've taken out the time to build out your own estimate or your own internal proposal, essentially is what it is, you can run a cross comparison and it'll tell you everything. What line items they included that you didn't include, what line items you included that they did not include, where the quantities were modified. So where you have 100 linear feet, they have 175 linear feet. It'll give you all of that without you having to comb through line by line by line by line. So all of that time that you spend reviewing proposals, dedicate that time maybe on the next one to build out an estimate, and it'll save you so much heartache on the back end trying to review the proposal. It really, really is impactful.
Yeah,
I know Jeremy just did it.
Yeah, I just did it for one of my projects, and because you have to. I know we're all busy, but it took me, I think, 45 minutes, an hour to put together a proposal for a bike storage area that we're doing, just to kind of give me an idea of what the contractor is going to, like, the items they're going to be using. Maybe the items aren't there. Maybe you got to call Gordian and be like, hey guys, you guys don't have bike lockers in there. So can you look up bike lockers? Can you help me find this item so that the contractor can use it too? But it makes you more familiar with all the items that they're going to use and whether they're appropriate or not appropriate. Because show of hands, how many folks in here have seen some questionable line items like flagman or shade cloth or you name it. I was working on a project and they had a flagman for a project that was actually indoors. And I was like, where was there a flagman? I don't, where would that actually be? Or shade cloth too. They put shade cloth in. Oh, well, it just, the line item wasn't there. Well, you need to tell me that the line item's not there so we can talk to Gordian and figure out where there is something either close to it or they can add to the book. So I highly recommend, just, even if it's wrong, just try to do your own ROM and while you're waiting during that 2 weeks for your contractor proposal. So step 7.
And I also dropped in the chat where you can find it in the system if you have not seen in the system as of yet. Essentially, when you're within your job order, you're going to go to your initiation tab. You're going to scroll all the way to the very bottom, and you'll see estimates. And that's where you can build your own. Okay. All right. So once you and your contractor have come to an agreement on what the proposal should be, right? You verified the quantities, you verified the line items that make sure that they adhere to the scope and you don't have a shade cloth line item on an interior paint job. Once all of that's been, weeded out, then you can start to route your internal paperwork. You've approved your proposal in the system. Go ahead and route what we call the job order authorization package, and it should be a package already prepared for you in your portal within the job order. If it's not set up for you, reach out to your account manager, because it takes us all of maybe a minute to build one out for you. So reach out to us. We're happy to build one out. Even if it needs updating, like the order of the forms, let us know. We're happy to help out with it. But essentially what it is this is the documentation that you're going to route internally for approvals to whoever your powers that be are. Sometimes it's obviously the PM, it's the finance director, it's the AVP, it's whoever is your people in charge, basically. Always make sure that it includes a filled out subcontractor listing. And actually, I recommend that you check for the filled out subcontractor listing when you get your proposal submitted. On your first proposal submission, not at submission 3 or 4. When they submit the first proposal, they should also submit their detailed listing of who their subs are going to be, including DVBE information. Because then when you pull your JOA package, all of that's there for you. Again, it's about capturing things on the front end rather than chasing them down on the back end, right? But make sure that you verify that DVBE information is there. And again, your DVBE requirement is contractually, not on an individual job order. It can be if you choose to on a campus basis, but technically it's contractually. But making sure that they're adhering to that is also a responsibility of ours, is to make sure, and by ours, I mean all of us as a unit here on the call, is to make sure that they are including DVBE information, especially if it's a bigger project. Honestly, anything over 50K, they should probably be trying to meet that DVBE requirement. Yep. Sometimes it's a little bit harder, I understand that, but if it's a little bit more sizable of a project, make sure that they're doing their due diligence and trying to get a DVBE subcontractor, supplier, whatever it may be on those jobs. Okay. And obviously make sure that that package does have the signed detailed scope of work. I cannot emphasize that step enough.
And the one that's checked final, right? You don't want the preliminary one. Make sure the final.
Yes, do not make sure. Yeah, please make sure it's the final detailed scope of work, not the preliminary.
Right.
All right, next step. So your next step is just the car is all ready to go. The engines are revving. We are issuing out the NTP. Once you get your signed JOA back from your campus representative, whether that's procurement or some sort of analyst, JOC coordinator maybe, once that comes back signed and you get a purchase order and a DIR number, please don't forget that. Making sure that you have your DIR number for each of the projects. Once you have those, you can issue out your notice to proceed to your contractor and construction can begin. That's it. That's it. That's kind of it. There's nothing more to it, guys. Construction can begin. It's a really quick step that happens, but you're good to go after that. You can schedule out your pre-construction meetings, get your boots on the ground, and you can get rocking and rolling. I've seen this happen as quickly as a week, depending on the job. I've seen it go up to a month to 2 months because it's a more complex project. It just depends on the size of the project. It depends on your relationship with your contractor. And it also depends on when you're doing these steps, right? If you're doing things on the front end rather than the back end, there's a lot less chasing and it shortens out that time span.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's talk about types of winter projects. So winter is coming upon us. I know
winter is coming.
What's sorry. That? It's California winter, right? I think that's about
Game of Thrones reference. Sorry.
That's about as much snow as we'll get. Can anybody guess what campus this is? How many may actually be on the call and know what campus this is? Anybody?
I do, but I won't say it.
I'm not saying it either. Anybody? San Bernardino. Am I right?
Yep, you're correct.
Yep. So, Cynthia, what are some of the types of winter JOC projects that campuses could be planning for right now?
Yeah, this is we threw this in there so that you guys would have some sort of an idea, or if you guys are trying to prioritize what projects could ideally be done in the winter. This is based on your historical facts, by the way. Jobs that we've seen you at CSU done over the winter time. So this isn't just throwing it out there. Energy efficiency projects. Those are huge, right? There's going to be a lot of energy used in the winter. Start planning those out now rather than later. Insulation projects, can't stress those enough. Somebody's bound to be cold and realize that there's no insulation in their building. HVAC projects are fantastic through the winter. They're interior work for the most part, unless you're up on a unit on a rooftop somewhere. But cleaning out air ducts, those things like that. Plumbing work, pipes are bound to freeze, pipes are bound to burst. For some reason, it always happens on the coldest day of the winter when this happens, but start trying to capture those, especially if you know that you have older buildings. Those are the ones you want to look at first. Weatherproofing updates on older buildings as well. Double checking those, making your rounds across campus to see which buildings are older and need this kind of maintenance work done. Paving work, of course, roofing work. I recommend doing that now. If there's anything that you know that's a little bit older before the rainy season is upon us, start looking at those now for any leaks, any type of older roof repair that needs to happen. And of course, interior work is fantastic through the winter time. Carpet tile replacement, painting, any classroom renovations and upgrades on your housing units as well, especially because, again, in the winter time, we have that winter break period, right? Where students are, for a majority, off campus. There's a couple that still linger behind, but this is a good opportunity for you guys to crank out a lot of those light renovation projects within that 2 to 3 week window while they're off campus. Obviously, we have the balcony inspections upon us. SB 721, I think we've all heard it at this point, but making sure that you have that inspection completed and are starting to get underway with the repairs that might be necessary on your balconies on campus. And this is supposed to be effective as of January 1st, 2025, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah, and
At least
most of our campuses are have already done the legwork on this. So if you haven't, you better hurry up because it's coming upon us very quickly.
Yeah, there's 3 months left on it, so schedule that out. We do have a representative of a company, Garland, who will assist with the inspections, and I believe it's at no cost to you for the inspection. So reach out to us. I can't speak more than that on the details, but I can get you more details if you have not done those inspections as of yet. They've partnered with us and they're helping us out because, again, this is impacting statewide, not just CSU. So feel free to reach out to me. LED retrofits. That's a big one that we saw happen on campuses, as well as gas main repairs. That's a big one. Please make sure that you guys are looking into those before winter hits. Storm drain repairs, right, as well as backflow repairs. And again, this is just an idea of the work that you guys historically done through the winter. So things to keep in the back of your mind as you guys are trying to think about what projects to prioritize through this winter break and winter period. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia.
Sure.
So let's take a quick look at our CSU volume year to date. So what are we at right now, Cynthia? We're at.
Yeah. So as of right now, our contract with you guys, us Gordian with CSU, goes from Valentine's Day to Valentine's Day, which makes it very easy for us to remember, honestly.
And we love Gordian, so it's nice and.
Because you guys love us so much. I know.
We'll do a special Valentine's JOC Huddle.
Oh, I'll be waiting for our Valentine's cards, guys. No, so last year, just so you guys know, 2023 to 2024, you guys did 86 million in the span of 1 year, which is fantastic. As of right now, where you guys are at, you're at $54 million, 54, 256, 275 to be exact. But that's from February 14th to now. So you guys have been cranking out some work. Our window here that we're looking at to make sure is that you guys stay within the 80 million to 100 million mark, because that impacts your fee that you pay, the 2.33%. Do I think it's something that you guys will do based on your historic work? Absolutely. But I just want to throw it out there and be transparent so that you guys know the impact of the volume that you guys do, because it does impact the system as a whole. The more work you guys do, the better discount you guys get. Okay. But again, I definitely think this is something attainable for you guys because this is what you guys have been doing historically, which is why we got to this 2.33%. So you guys are almost there, but we have until February to meet the at least the $80 million mark.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Cynthia.
Totally.
So this is an additional under the current contract that we have with Gordian, there's a tier 2 service. Cynthia, if you want to touch upon that real quick.
Totally. So as a reminder, you guys do have tier 2 services. And I've noticed that maybe you guys know what it is, but maybe don't know how to ask for it. But essentially what it is where we jump in and we help you out through your jobs. If you have work that you need to get done, but don't have the manpower to get it done and help through all of the paperwork, all of the steps that roadmap that you just saw, we can jump in and help. So we help and go so far as to enter the job into the system. We process everything through the Gordian Cloud system so you're able to see it very transparently. We conduct the joint scope meeting with the contractor for you. We collaborate and build out that scope of work with the contractor for you. We do that in-depth proposal review for you. Afterward, throughout each of these steps, we do a check-in point with you to make sure that everything is adhering to what your vision was for the project, what you thought the project should look like. And that includes you doing the final review of the proposal, the final spot check of the proposal. But essentially, it's a spot check because we've already done all of the in-depth review for you. We also create the JOA package and hand it off to you basically at NTP. That's the gist of it. In order to request it, because this is already a part of your agreement that you have with Gordian, it's already a part of that contract that comes with it. All you need to do to request tier 2 is email your account manager. Send an email saying, hey, I would like to do tier 2 for this project. Include the name, include the project number that you would like, as well as just, again, that preliminary scope of work. Give us those 2-3 sentences as to what it is that you're looking to do. Select your preferred contractor. We want to work with, I don't know, MIK. We want to work with Expon, whoever it is. Let us know who your preferred contractor is and include in the email saying we request for tier 2 services. And that's it. We will take it from there. We'll schedule out the joint scope meeting. We'll collaborate with you and get any details, request any cut sheets, request any plans that you might already have, any sketches that you might have, and then you can just hand it over and take it off. This comes at an additional 3.05, but what I've noticed is a lot of it is, honestly, we pay it back in our proposal review alone. We do a really great job of doing the proposal reviews. I have to give it to the team. They do a fantastic job at reviewing proposals. So those savings that you get really help pay for the tier 2 services in and of itself. It's an additional 3.05. And just as a reminder, this is just a general reminder to CSU. You guys do get a discount of 2% on the fee that you guys are paying if you guys pay within 20 days. So if your fee is $100, you get 2% off by paying it within 20 days. So just in general, as a reminder, if you guys get our invoice, pay it as soon as you can so you guys can take advantage of that discount because it does help. Okay.
So campuses, just want to remind you that this tier 2, Gordian will take you basically through like anywhere from the request for proposal all the way up to notice to proceed, but they cannot sign the notice to proceed for you. They are not a trustee of the state of California. It has to actually be approved and signed by someone on your campus.
Absolutely. And honestly, all of the reports, we always hand it off to the campus, the detailed scope of work, the RFP. We make sure that it's the campus's, parties who are signing off on those. We're just here as the administrator to help push the paperwork along for you.
Correct. Cynthia, thanks so much for all that information.
Absolutely.
So now is time for open discussion. You guys actually just got a peek of my this is who I'm going to be dressing up for as Halloween for Halloween, by the way.
That's amazing.
I know. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. But are there any questions about anything that we discussed today or any other topics or questions you guys might have for Cynthia, for myself, or any issues you guys want to talk about? Well, perfect. If you do have any questions.
Maritime has responded in the chat. Sorry. Tier 2 has helped with our campus. We have little bandwidth. Thank you, Lori. We appreciate it. Cal Maritime is somebody who does use our tier 2 services very heavily. And we appreciate it. We love it. We love it. We love it. Thanks, Lori.
And I think it's, is it John Futch that helps you out, Lori, on that? I think it is.
Yeah, it's John.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Mary, it looks like you have a question.
Yeah, my question is, one of the things that we've been finding with JOC is the regional JOC contractors do not know how to use the catalog. What kind of training are they getting? Because it's been pretty miserable so far.
I love that question. And thank you for being so transparent, honestly. Each contractor is required to go through a training with our account manager at the time that the contract is signed. However, a lot of the times that can be either overwhelming for a contractor, or if they're distracted focusing on whatever they already have on their plate, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. So when these kinds of things happen, call us. On the regionals, you guys have Paige, and she will give out a dissected, in-depth review with the contractor at any given moment. You just have to let us know, hey, this isn't panning out with this contractor. Can you jump in and help them out? And even if you're already in the thick of a proposal, call us and we're happy to jump in and assist. Hey, this contractor just isn't quite understanding it. There seems to be some sort of a disconnect. Let us know and we'll hop on a call with them and guide them through that proposal process until they do get it. Because we want to make sure that we're supporting our contractors if they are not aligning with what you guys are wanting to occur. But yeah, let us know. We're happy to help.
And with the new Gordian cloud, there's a lot more ease of use. It's a lot easier to use than eGordian. It's a lot more intuitive. You can click on different items, you can select different items, or you can unselect different items. I mean, labor, materials, it's a lot easier to use. So, I mean, I hate to say it, but I almost have no excuse not to give you a good proposal, Mary, because it's extremely easy to use. And there's hundreds of thousands of items in there. Like I think we've got over 24 water dispensers or the water bottle dispensers. I literally think we have like 24 of those. So it's like that with all the items. There's quite a few items in the book that they can use. So Fernando.
I mean, what I have gone through with the new contractors or all contractors sometimes is that they hire new people, and then even though that they're all contractors, the new people they're not familiar with the catalog yet. So and we have to train them again. So that's what happens a lot of times, actually.
That's a really great point. Absolutely. So even if you recognize the name, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to recognize the players. So always feel free to let us know, hey, it's not panning out with them, and we're happy to get it trained. And it looks like there's a couple comments in the chat here. It's from CSULA. This helped me get a better picture. Happy that it did. Happy to help. And then also Todd McComb over at Sacramento State says that Tier 2 has also helped Sac State tremendously. So we're very happy to hear that. We love getting that type of feedback when campuses like that we're jumping in and helping out.
Right. Again, really just any other big questions? Are we good? Again, if something comes to mind later, don't hesitate to email me or Cynthia, and we can for sure help you out. Just as a heads up, registration's open. Does everybody know about Mission Possible? Igniting creativity and elevating stewardship. Listen, I didn't come up with the name, guys. This is.
Are you sure? I find that really hard to believe, Jeremy.
Folks.
That sounds like you sprinkled something in there.
I know. Mission Possible. So we're doing our as many of you know, the facilities management is going to be an online conference this year. Very excited about it. It's stretched out from October 1st to November 7th. So there's lots of training every week. But go ahead and register today. What's super exciting is that Cynthia and I have a JOC section in there, which will make Cynthia, tell them.
JOC number 30. Sorry, I was like, what is it gonna? What am I?
Confetti cannons. Woohoo! But yeah, we're very excited to bring you job order contracting done right. So please sign up for our session. Again, it'll just be Cynthia and I with some slides, and again, there'll be an open discussion at the end. So looking forward to seeing everybody join us on that.
One thing, if I could sprinkle in there for that specific JOC huddle.
Yeah.
You guys should have gotten an email from your account manager requesting information on your favorite JOC project. If you haven't done so yet, please respond, because we want to showcase your best JOC projects, your favorite JOC projects that we've done. If you haven't gotten an email, let me know, reach out to us afterward, and I'm happy to forward that email to you. But we're going to be doing a spotlight basically on the campus's best JOC projects that they've done. That can be anything today. It could have been something 10 years ago. It could have been something last month. Just pick whatever project stands out to you, and we would love to showcase it at that JOC Huddle.
I'm going to bump one slide back. Somebody just reminded me. Does anybody know the cost for the Mission Possible facilities management? It's free. $0.00. It's free. So please encourage your staff to attend. There is no charge for the online facilities maintenance conference. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Susan, you're having issues. Send me an email with those issues, and I'll make sure they're taken care of.
Will do.
So you can go on CSYOU. Does everybody know what CSYOU is? Yes, we all know what it is. So not only are the previous JOC huddles there, CM 101's there, Project Management 101, CM at Risk is there. We've got a lot of videos on collaborative design build, TOCA, all sorts of great learning materials. So if you've got new staff members, or maybe you need a refresher, check out our site here at the CSU Learn, and sum total to